makes a CEO? CEOs are constantly in the news, but recently more for bad reasons than good reasons. But when you take a look at someone like Travis Kalanick, there are also people who say what got him in trouble now was what made him a good CEO in a very early stage. Is that true in your opinion, Anna?
I had the pleasure of meeting him when he was thinking about whether he wanted to enter China, and we had a startup in the ride-sharing space. I was frankly pretty blown away in a good way. He said, do you think we can do this in China? I said, no. And then he was basically like, we're going to do it anyway. Okay. And you know what? They did a great job. So I think it really takes someone like him, and the organization is moving so fast. You need a really strong leader. And I think the culture they've built, even though, I do think it's very tough, but I think it might have been what they needed. And I have friends who work there who are fine with it. And I think, I started my career in investment banking. The banking culture is probably very similar to that of Uber, and I think it's a choice people make. I think you make your choice. Do you want to be with a firm that's like this, but that's also growing really quickly and is doing pretty phenomenal things, or do you not? And I think that's a personal choice.
Right. Even though there is a point to be made when you have thousands of employees, the culture should probably adjust. But we'll get to that in a bit. You look at a lot of startups. When they come to you, how important is the CEO factor? What do you look for in this person?
The CEO is 90% of what I look for. Because at the early stage, the ideas pivot and ideas change. Like Little Red Book, Xiaohongshu that we invested in, they were pitching like a travel idea when I met them. Half the startups that become billion-dollar companies do pivot a little bit. So a lot of it is the CEO. And in terms of what we look for the CEO, we've done a lot of analysis on what makes the best CEO. I say ours is right. We did run a correlation, and it was with like 0.9 correlation. We basically looked at 13 characteristics of CEOs of our early investments and scored them, and then basically, by different qualities. And sort of broadly speaking, we now come up with what we call the 4 Ls, which is based on Chinese, but it's I'll just say it in English. It's ability to learn, which is like your ability to learn, which is not only your IQ, but some demonstration that you are willing to grow, right? And then the second one is your 经历, which is like your experience, like relevant to the industry. Have you done a platform before? Do you know how to acquire users? Things that are relevant to the experience. The third one, and I think the most important one, is called 影响力, your ability to influence, which is your charisma. Like, do people want to work for you? Often I think about, when I'm funding someone, would I want to work for that guy or girl, or do I want this person to work for me? Like, I think about just how charismatic and how the leadership sort of ability is in a person. And the last one, which we recently added, is your fundraising ability, and that kind of goes with your sales and marketing, because you really have to be able to pitch to investors and customers all the time. So that's your fundraising ability. And I think the other important thing is we also look at the team, and we call that the 3 Cs. So the 3 Cs are chemistry between the co-founders. Like, you guys have 3 people on your team, right? So it's like how, there has to be chemistry when you're working together. It's basically like a marriage. I'm sure you're basically married to the other people. So that, and then...
we've seen each other every single day for the past 5 years.
I'm sure more than your family. Yeah. I see my colleagues more than my family, unfortunately. So sad. And then your complementarity. So you want different skill sets in people, right? And then the third is compromise, because I'm sure you guys have to compromise all the time. Right. So broadly speaking, that's kind of what we've dissected as traits we look for.
Right, that's a very good starting point. Actually, my next question to Seo Ray is that you have 3 founders. Yeah. You're essentially the business guy. At what point did you guys have the conversation? Who's going to be the CEO? And I would love to pay money to be there. How did that conversation go for you? Well,
first and foremost, I don't think I'm the business guy. I like to be
I
called as the
apologize.
product guy. So when we first started 5 years ago, we were three guys who are very complementary in nature. So I used to do product, so I did all the wireframing and what the product should be. Marcus would do design, actually how the look and feel of the app would look like. And then Lucas, our co-founder and our CTO, would do engineering. So he built our first iOS app, he built our Django backend. And along the way, the past 5 years, actually for the longest time, three of us were just called co-founders. Because we did whatever it takes for the company. We have this core value in the company called mission first. It doesn't really matter what title you have or who you are, whether you're a co-founder, you're a VP or an intern. We do whatever it takes to win and to serve our community. So I think when we actually took on official titles was when we scaled from just a 3-person team to a 40-person team, and realizing that hey, organization is important, clarity to the org is important about what structure looks like and so on. And I think more importantly, what catalyzed this was our formation of the entire executive team. So I think only early 2016 was when we officially took on titles. So I'm the CEO, my co-founder Lucas, the CTO. He looks after our data science, AI, machine learning efforts, and Marcus takes on the president title, and he looks after people operations and marketplace operations. Did this fundamentally change what our role? Actually, this was quite organic in the sense that we were just taking on titles that best fit what we did in the company. So I take on more overall direction, strategy, and therefore I became CEO. So it was a very organic conversation. I don't think it was contentious in any way. And I think the mission first core value that we have helped out a lot.
Wait, can I ask you a really sensitive
please,
question?
go ahead.
Yeah.
That a lot of our founders have. Did you guys, and you cannot answer, but did you guys change your ownership structure when you made that decision? Like, do you have more shares than people now that you're CEO, or do you guys split it?
Day one, me and my co-founders have been equal founders up to today. Yeah.
Okay.
And you think that's gonna, in the future, that's gonna be the way forward?
This is not even something that we think about.
That's great. I've had so many. I think the number one problem I've seen, the biggest issue that all my startups, like the one that really bothers them the most, is when they have a founder issue.
Right.
And I'm glad you guys haven't experienced it, but I remember there's this company that we funded, and there were 4 friends, and they had equal partnership, and I was like, look, it's not going to work in the long term. They're like, trust me, we're best friends, like it's going to be fine. And no, and then it blew. I mean, you guys have been. If it would have happened, it would have happened already, to be honest. But and then like it did blow up, and this happened to so many companies. So I really advise all my, and it could be like a China thing. I don't know, but I do advise all my startups not to have equal. Like there should be the CEO or whatever should have more shares.
No, I always felt like equal was the best way, because honestly, like each of us. It's hard to go into the nitty-gritty of like, you're going to be contributing a little bit more than me and whatnot. I think when we started out, it was a complementary partnership, right? In the past 5 years to get to where we are, like, I don't think I could have done it without either of them.
Yeah.
So that's how I viewed it, and that's how I share with founders. Like, it's really like having a few more percentage points incremental to someone else over a company that's $0 versus it's a binary thing, right? If you're startups.
That's good.
Yeah.
It will work for you.
If people have more questions about this, we're going to set aside probably 3 minutes later. But for now, when you talk about a company, get to a certain size, you need a structure. You also need to hire people that you probably didn't think you needed before, lawyers and people to take care of the operations. What do you look for when you have to deal with people who are just so different from you?
Sure, I can share this. So I think this was for us, for me, particularly close to heart. When we were scaling this. So prior to 2016, end of 2015, we probably had 40 people in the organization, and up to that point, 90% of the organization were freshers like me and my co-founders. Like this was our first job. And for a while we resisted getting people of experience. We thought like, hey, this is a mobile-first classifieds platform. We are reinventing it. We're thinking first principles. We don't want the baggage and legacy. But I think one of the things we realized was, hey, when you scale beyond 40 people, that's when you need to start to be deliberate about processes, organization structure, alignment. And that was when we realized that, hey, actually, maybe this is when you need people who have the experience in setting these things up.
Right.
So one of the things that we did was we started looking for our first executive. And we were very nervous about it because this was the first time we're going to bring someone who has got experience, is a former consultant, who's got many, many years of work experience. What if he screws up the culture? So that was really nerve-wracking for us, but we eventually brought on our first executive, VP of International, JJ. So he used to run Airbnb for Southeast Asia, so he was the first guy there. He grew it to one of the fastest regions. And I think all concerns were laid to rest when he joined us for regular Counter-Strike night. So he was playing games with us. It's been great. So I think we were just too afraid of something too hypothetical. Like, he's been an amazing addition to the team. He's brought so much more structure to the team, especially now that we're 150 people. We've got a full bench of executives, and he's really gave me the confidence to go and hire our VP product, VP of engineering. And our VP of engineering has like 35 years of Silicon Valley experience. So you've got really good people who are really helping to create the processes and the culture for your next evolution of scale.
Right, but I'm really happy that worked out for you guys, but there are many examples where it didn't. And if you have to advise some founders when they reach out to people that are unlike themselves, what do you recommend them to look for?
I think you have to share values, because I think that, you know, especially when, like my other partner, he's local Chinese, like never been abroad. And in the beginning, I was worried, like, will we have different values on where to take the company? You know, like at one point, he wanted to list, like there was discussion with our founder Bob about listing Gem Fund on the Chinese public share market, because a lot of funds were doing that, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, but then, you know, working with him so much now, like I totally feel we share the same values, even though we're very different. But if we didn't do that, it wouldn't be the same. But I think if I put my Gem Fund hat on, I think it's really important to hire. For me, what I realize is you have to hire people who are better than you, and that for me,
which is difficult for a lot of people.
Difficult. And I think when I was young, because I started the fund when I was 29, and I knew that I needed another partner. And I think every time I met people who are, you know, really awesome, and I wanted them to join, but I think secretly inside there was a feeling like, am I going to be displaced because this person has so many more years of investing than I do and is amazing? And then, and I think, I don't know, at some point I got over that, and I think that's been really important lesson for me, to be able to, you know, you have to work with people who are better, and it doesn't mean that you're bad, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's a growing.
Concur with that. I think it's fundamentally important if you want to build an amazing company, right? I think one of the quotes from David Ogilvy was that if you keep hiring someone better than yourself, and every single person in the organization hires someone better than themselves, you eventually build a company of giants. So I think that's the same principle that we have in Carousel. We try to keep leveling up to the point where sometimes I sit in these interviews of candidates and I ask myself, if I'm applying for this, I don't think I'll be able to get in.
Since I have you here, just very quickly, I want to talk about the women CEO issue, women founders, because right now there's also a lot of news stories about that. How do we do a better job as an industry to empower them? And
you know, these women have been so brave to share their stories, because I think it's so easy just to sweep everything under the rug. It really is. So they're incredibly courageous. Since this happened, I've asked a few of my female CEOs in China if they've experienced it, and to my surprise, they haven't. And I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of female venture, you know, partners in China as well. I really feel like it's very much a meritocracy. I mean, like, if someone's building a really amazing company, like on Monday I visited VIP Kid, Sami, she spoke last year, I think, at Rise, and she's doing phenomenal. And I mean, the company's metrics speak for themselves, and I think no one, like no guy or girl, would ever want to abuse their power, because everyone's just fighting to get into these deals. So luckily, you know, I haven't experienced it, and our founders haven't. And Gem Fund, you know, we have 7 or 8 female investors on the investment team, and like
that's
almost
important,
yeah,
right?
and almost 30 females working at Gem Fund. So I mean, it's a lot. I'm actually, like, men have. I'm struggling. I want to hire more men. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding. But anyway, but no, but luckily it hasn't been an issue for the founders that we've been working with.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more minutes. See if anyone's got any questions. There is someone in the middle. Yes.
Hello, hi. This is Pradeep. And
Hello.
yeah, the thing is about you three guys has been started your company for few years, and once after proceeding for 3 years, you have realized that one of your co-founder can't able to contribute as per the speed of what your contribution may be. Like you are trying to go faster than him, and you are learning faster than him, and you are willing to try different strategies, but his contribution or his support towards the company gets slowed down. At that time, what you will do, how you can able to explain him, but he can't able to cope up with the speed of what your contribution.
Anna, you want to take?
Sure.
Fire fast? I don't know.
Maybe I can share a little bit more about just going back to the core value of mission first, right? So I think that's one of the things that we established very early on in the company, and you know, in some ways influenced by me and my co-founders' time in Silicon Valley, where we were really entrusted with responsibility as interns. So one of the things that we established in Carousel is this idea that, you know, it doesn't really matter what your title is. We should be doing what's best for the mission and what's best for the company, right? And I think this is something that me and my co-founders share very dearly, and this is something that we've actually practiced as we scaled the organization, right? So, you know, in many ways, you know, we've had to hire really experienced people to take ourselves out of those roles. So I used to run product. Now I've hired a VP of product who's way better than I am, and my main job is to get out of the way, right? Similarly for my co-founder, you know, so he's the CTO today. But you know, our engineering organization has now grown to a 60%
but are you
organization.
hoping that if a founder is not up to speed, you're hoping he will voluntarily drop out?
No, I think that is why it's deliberate. You have to be quite deliberate about having these conversations as a company, right? If you have it early enough, you don't wait till too late when you realize you're not the best person to run it and you're still there. But if you can always have this agreed principle that, and when you hire every single person, they also subscribe to this principle. Okay. You avoid such a situation, right?
Okay, all right. I'm not sure that answered this question. Maybe you can follow up later. And that's all the time we've got. Thank you guys so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.